So here, for anybody who may be interested, is that front wheel spindle from the BSA A10 Super Rocket, and I've had it in the lathe, and I haven't even bothered using any cutting tools or anything. I thought rather than perhaps compromising the shape and curve and maybe putting a sharp cut in, or having to use a rounded cutter and move it side to side, what I did is I got this chainsaw file, a round file, had the chuck of the lathe spinning with the spindle in it, of course, and just held the file down in the groove like that, and the radius of the file wasn't quite as big as the radius of the bolts in the fork, the wheel spindle clamp that we've got to pass the groove. So what I did, because I not only had to marginally, and I mean marginally, increase the depth of the groove, but I also had to increase the radius a little bit to accommodate the larger diameter bolts which have been used previously. And I've got to stress that the threads in the fork leg, they have done a good job of that, and there's plenty of threads on these bolts to engage. So they've gone up from the 5/16 size that would have been in there originally to a 3/8 size. So you can argue the toss whether that's even stronger or not, actually, but the main point is these screw into the fork leg securely, and they also just pass, they slide over the groove in the end of the spindle. It was suggested, and you know, not a bad idea at all, that I could perhaps have just sort of made clearances 180 degrees opposite each other, just sort of filed or whatever, or ground into the spindle a little bit to get the depth and the clearance for those bolts. But the problem is that there's a thread on this spindle with a nut that's done up tightly against the brake plate, and you'd have to offer the wheel up into the forks with that nut backed off so that you could rotate the spindle and brake plate relative to each other to get the thing to locate properly. And then you'd not be able to get at the nut on the brake plate without taking the wheel off again. And by the time you've done that and tightened the nut up, you're probably going to find that you've slewed the brake plate against your sort of enlarged areas of this. So really, in the long run, I thought it was better, and it was just a matter of a very small amount really, just to take the diameter down right around it and increase the radius a little. So we've still got a hell of a lot more metal there than the other spindle had. I really probably haven't removed much more than about 10 thou depth wise, call it 20 thou diametrically, half a millimetre say. I don't think that that's going to cause any troubles, and I'll be quite confident to hop on the bike and ride it when it's all done. So I know now that I can make the front wheel fit, so I'll also be able to crack on and fit the new front tyre. And then I've just got the brake operating linkage and angles to deal with, and I've got one or two ideas brewing in my head about that as well. So next up, I'll be fitting the bearings and putting the spindle into the wheel and everything, and we'll get the wheel onto the bike, get it all clamped up and have a look. I've also checked, and I've got very good engagement between the brake plate and that lug on the fork leg. So hopefully the next video will look a bit more interesting, because we might be looking at the wheel on the bike and discussing the fit.